Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about 10 reasons why I think you should read historical romance. So today's video is kind of just a chatty video where I'm basically talking about the 10 reasons why I love historical romance and why I feel like you should read it if you haven't yet. So number one on my list is for the romance. I love romance books and I have read a lot of them over the years, and I definitely feel that historical romance offers some of the most swoony, romantic love stories that I've ever read. We have a strong sense of chivalry, which I really like. I really love the dashing heroes. I really love the care and concern that they show for the women at that time. Most of the time, I love the antiquated gestures of even like standing when a woman leaves the table. I think that those are romantic and I love them and I love reading stories about them. And I feel like that does contribute to the powerful relationship that we have between our characters, and it just makes the romance so swoony. I love historical romance first and foremost for the romance because it is to die for. And the second reason I think you should read historical romance is for the strong female characters. And this is an interesting one because in a time when women weren't really known for being physically strong, as a lot of times we see in today's literature, I think it's pretty common for there to be warriors and strong, really bad A women who are fighters, you know. It really wasn't that common in historical fiction timelines to see women be warriors. Occasionally there were. So when I talk about strong female characters, what I'm really talking about is how much they were strong and resilient inside. They had a lot of inner strength. They really were able to do hard things. They, a lot of times they didn't have really great futures or things that they thought were going to happen to them, and they didn't complain. They either looked for a way to change it or they accepted what they knew they had to do and they just did it. And I love that. I love exploring that aspect of strong females in a way that isn't just, being strong as far as you could lift a lot of weights or you could be a good warrior. I want to see that strong female character on the inside, That's one of my favorite things about historical romance. And my third reason why I think you should read historical romance is for the subtle humor. I absolutely love the subtle, very quiet type of humor that a lot of historical romance novels have. One author I can think that does this particularly well is Sherry Thomas, and another one I know does this so well is Tessa Dare. There are so many other authors that just sort of lay in this little quiet humor that is a little bit sort of takes down another character, maybe if they're a little prideful or whatever. It's just this really quiet, subtle, witty humor, and I just think it's just so great. I love it. I know I talked about this in one of my reading vlogs that I read, The Luckiest Lady in London by Sherry Thomas, where she was making a list of 7 things she needed to land a husband. And one of those things was bust improvers, which I thought was hilarious. But another thing I thought was so funny was that she needed to be very adept at flattering a gentleman. And I just thought that was so great that that was on her list of things she needed to land a husband. And the fourth reason why I think you should read historical romance kind of goes along with this, and that is the great banter between the male and female characters. I love good banter, and I feel like historical romance does that right almost 10 out of 10 times. Tessa Dare in The Duchess Steele is one of my favorite examples of this, where you have the hero and heroine who are sort of in this marriage of convenience. The Duchess Steele is basically about a female dressmaker who has made this really beautiful wedding gown, and she's trying to make her way in this as a career instead of just getting married. When the Duke, who was coming to pick up the dress for his bride left him, so he comes to buy the wedding dress, and they end up in an arranged marriage so that he can have an heir and she can sort of rise above her poverty. And there's a little bit of an enemies to lovers, not really enemies, but definitely not instant spark attraction. And the banter between these two is so well done. It's so funny, laugh out loud funny. It's charming, it's sexy, it's just great. I loved it. And I feel like that is something that happens in a lot of historical romance books, so it's not necessarily just this one. And the fifth reason why I think you should read historical romance is because of the way that women are questioning and going against what their assigned roles in society are. I love to see this, especially during this time period when a lot of choices and options were limited for women. They didn't necessarily get to have careers or go to school or really even get to choose who they married a lot of the time. So to see these strong female characters really sort of question that and push against it and do what they want to do instead of what society or their family tells them to do is one of the things that I love most about historical romance. And a book that I feel like does that particularly well, if you've watched any of my videos, you're not going to be surprised about this at all, is Brazen and the Beast by Sarah MacLean. I love the female character Hattie in this. I think that she is a wonderful example of really pushing those social norms and not caring about society or even what her family thinks and going after what she wants and what is in her heart. And I love this book. It's amazing. It's a great, great example of a woman who's really going after the desires of their hearts instead of what the world makes them think they should want. I really feel like Sarah MacLean in general does that really, really well with all of her female characters, but this one I just thought was just 10 out of 10. Spicy meatball, 10 pizza award, well done. The sixth reason why I think you should read historical romance is because of the interesting history that you learn, or getting perspectives from other people in a time that you didn't live in that you wouldn't have otherwise known. And an author that I feel like does this especially well, and is pretty much the queen of this, is Beverly Jenkins. Indigo is one of my all-time favorite books. This is absolutely heart-wrenching, swoony, beautiful, intelligent. This is just a perfect example of a historical romance novel. In this book we have Hester, who is a freed slave. She grew up on like an indigo plantation, and her palms and the soles of her feet are stained indigo permanently as she worked on the indigo plants as a child. It's the story of her romance with Galen, who is also known as the Black Daniel. He is very well known for helping slaves escape. They both work in the Underground Railroad. This book was just stunning and beautiful and such a eye-opening experience to see what people in this time, specifically Black people, what they went through as they were trying to escape from slavery, and even though they were freed, seeing how that still affected them in their future, especially because we have Hester, who wears the marks of her slavery for the rest of her life. Her palms are permanently stained indigo. I just love this book so much, and I feel like Beverly does that in all of her books. I could hold up 10 Beverly Jenkins books and just say they're a great example of history and really learning and experiencing compassion and empathy for the people and the struggles that they went through in a time that was different than ours. So if you are looking for a historical romance book to start, if you want to get your toes in the water and you want something that has a really rich sense of history, I would definitely recommend picking up Indigo by Beverly Jenkins. It's wonderful. The seventh reason why I think you should read historical romance is because of the clothes and the hairstyle. Who doesn't love pretty dresses and learning about different hairstyles? I don't know, maybe this is a shallow reason and it's really not that important, but I think it's just so fun. Especially even just the covers, seeing the girls in their pretty dresses, hearing the dresses described that they're going to wear, learning about maybe some of the fashions, like different types of corsets, bust improvers. I didn't even know that was a thing. I don't know why. It's just really interesting to me, and I just think it's a fun side benefit of reading historical romance. And the eighth reason I think you should read historical romance is because they are full of very subtle interaction between the male and female character that bring a lot of heat. Now, there are of course definitely varying levels of heat in historical romance books, but one of my favorite things in particular is just a glance shared between the couple, or hand holding, or just really small touches that they were allowed to do in society at that time that convey so much desire and passion and attraction, and I just love that. It's the carriage scene in 2005 Pride and Prejudice all over again. It's wonderful. It's perfect. I love it so much. A book that is full of that, but also has a lot of heat in it too, is Again the Magic by Lisa Kleypas. Oh my gosh, there were so many scenes in this book that were such just very subtle, tiny little interactions between the characters, like when they were in society and not really allowed to touch or be together, that just, oh my gosh, conveyed so much and just totally had me swooning, and I loved it. It's amazing. I love that. It's one of my very favorite things about historical romance. And the 9th reason I think that you should read historical romance is for the long series that there are, and how you get to see individual like side characters or family members that are maybe mentioned in the first book in a series go off to have their own story and their own happily ever after. A couple of those series that I really enjoy are the Mackenzie series by Jennifer Ashley, the Bare-Knuckle Bastard series by Sarah McLean, the Rhymes with Love series by Elizabeth Boyle. Aren't these covers just so pretty? I love them so much. And of course, Lisa Kleypas is famous for that with her Wallflower series and the Ravenel series. I just feel like that is such a fun little side benefit that we get in historical romance, where we get to not only see our main couple have a happily ever after, but then in future books we get to see maybe characters that were mentioned in that first book have their own HEA as well. And I just love that. And the 10th reason I think you should read historical romance is for the HEA, the happily ever after. I love a happily ever after. I think the world needs more of them. I love the feeling of hope and love and happiness and that everything will turn out all right. And I love picking up a historical romance knowing that in the end, the couple is going to get their happily ever after. It's one of my favorite things. It's uplifting, and I feel like if any year needs an HEA, it's 2020. Am I right? I'm right. So that's the end of this video, just my list of 10 reasons why I think you should read historical romance if you haven't picked it up already. Let me know if you have any thoughts that you'd like to add to my list or reasons why you love historical romance, and if I've inspired you to pick it up, let me know that too. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.